Okay, so first I drew out this sort of rough diagram. Sorry, I'm really bad at drawing. But basically, the width of this is 26 inches. From here to here is 36. I did this about 6 inches and this part 6 inches. So you can kind of like freehand that part. So I ended up drawing out the pattern on, oops, pieces of paper, which is like not exactly ideal. It's literally just printer paper and lined paper that I taped together to make this shape when I drew it out. So that's what my pattern looks like, but if you fold it in half to cut your fabric on the fold, it makes it way easier. So once you kind of draw out your pattern, you can cut your fabric out. Right now I'm just using 100% cotton. This is quilting fabric. So this is the shape that I've got here, like that. And I've got two of them. Okay, so I pinned those two pieces together all the way around. My table's not really big enough to show you this, but you can see the pin heads there. So you're going to start at the bottom of one side here. I'm going to do probably a 3/8 seam allowance, go all the way around, finish over here, the bottom of this side, back stitch there. Then for the inside portions, lay this up here, you're going to draw in about like a little more than ½ inch, draw a line in. You're going to want to sew around that line, so you're going to also do the same seam allowance, like 3/8 here, up. You're going to go past it, up and around, and reinforce that, and then of course do the same on this side here too. So you don't really need to draw this line if you don't want to, but I'm just drawing it to show you the shape that I'm going for. So once you're making the seam down here, you can just keep sewing and eyeball it about ½ inch, go across ½ inch, and then back down. Okay, so as you can see, oops, in that area that I marked, when I sewed over it, I also reinforced it, so I went over it more than once. So as you're coming along, make sure you backstitch here, here, and here, because on the center line that we originally drew, you're going to cut it and then cut into the corners. Okay, so I cut straight down, and then I cut a V into each of the corners, and then I also cut one in the middle here, because that just allows this corner to become much more flexible, so that makes it easier when you turn it right side out. And now that I've done the sewing around the edges and in those corner spots, I'm gonna zigzag these edges too. You can serge it if you want to, but I'm just gonna zigzag it. Okay, so now that we've done the stitching and the zigzagging, we're gonna turn this right side out. Just reach right in there. And then as you can see, these like corner areas here that we did the little snips in, they look really nice and clean there. And then you can just sort of reach into the end here, drag your hand along the seam, flatten it out. Now we're going to go down to this spot here. So this is the little opening in between the end bits there, and we're going to hem this. So we've got this ½ inch area from what you left when you went down and across. So you're going to fold this in ¼ inch, and then ¼ inch again. Just flip it onto itself like that, and you're going to sew that in a circle to hem the edge. So I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done pinning it. Okay, so I've pinned this whole opening just like this. So it was quarter, and then a quarter. And now I'm just going to sew as close to this bottom edge as I can. Okay, so I hemmed that area right here. So I did that sewing all the way around. And then the next part that we're going to do is make the channel for our cording to go through. So what I've done, I've already started, is you need to pin the outer edges. So inside you can feel the seam that you sewed the first time. So what you need to do when you go around is, see how when I pick this up, the seam that we sewed sinks in kind of from when we turned it. So you want to open up these little flaps that sometimes happen and grab the seam and pinch it. So when you're creating this channel, you want the seam to be up right to the top. It's kind of hard to explain, but hopefully you can see what I mean. So see how the seam is like right here, and you're going to just sort of make sure that you're rolling back that fabric, pinching it, bringing it right up to the top. The other thing that helps sometimes is like to kind of roll it like this, and that helps your seam to come up because you want that to be really crisp. Now you can iron it if that helps you a little bit, but by ironing it, I don't mean to lay this on your ironing board and iron it, because if you do that, you're going to iron this little like flap that creates. So if you do want to iron it, what you need to do is open the seam like this. You can see the seam right here, and you're going to take just the tip of your iron and like gently rub that area so that it makes it open, and then when you go to pick it up, it'll sort of pop right up to the surface. But like, to be honest, on the curves and stuff, that's harder to do. So it does work on the straight sides, but I find I'm so quick at it, like when I sort of work away, that I just find it easier to just do it with my fingers. So I'm sort of picking it up like this, pinching the seam, giving it a little shake and pressing down with my back fingers to make sure that that's nice and crisp. I don't really know another way to explain it, except that if you do anything, that is the most important part, that needs to be nice and flat, needs to be crisp at the top to create the channel. Otherwise, you're going to distort how much of the fabric is on either side if it's twisted, if that makes sense. So make sure that you're doing that part. Now, when you get to the end here, we want to eventually, we're going to be folding these edges in and like closing it up, but not yet because stuffing's not in there. So what I want you to do is fold this in 1/4 inch, similar to when we hemmed that other spot, and you're just gonna set that aside. You can even put a pin in it if you want, so that, see, when you look in there, the edges are hemmed, right? But we're not gonna actually sew that part for now. But when we sew our channel, the channel is gonna come right to the end here, and then that's where we're going to insert our cording. So you wanna make sure that the edges are tucked in nice and neat, and the rest of it, we're gonna worry about that later. So you can put a little placeholder pin there just to keep it. And then what we're going to do is start here. You're going to do a back stitch, make sure that's nice and strong, like a good back stitch there. And the amount that you sew here, like the width that you make the channel, will depend on what you're using. So I probably need about a 1/2 inch space. So I'm going to follow that on my sewing machine. If you want to measure that distance, you can put a little piece of masking tape if you're not familiar with the measurement guide on the plate, and then you're going to go all the way around until you reach the other side. Okay, so stitching all the way around to make your channel should look like this. So as you can see at this end here, this is open, so that's where you're going to be putting your cording through. We've gone all the way around. Now we're going to do the inside piece, so essentially making like a separate channel, and this channel is going to become the wall that makes like the edge all the way around. So I think I said 7 at the beginning of the video, but now I've decided to do 6. So I found a little note to myself that I wrote that I initially did 5 inches, so 5 inches from here to here. And now I'm going for 6. So I think that 1 inch will really help make a difference, but I think it will also be large enough in here still, so it doesn't take away too much of the space. So I've gone and measured from the inside stitching, and I've just placed pins all the way around. You can mark it with chalk if you want to, but I find that easy enough to follow. So I'm just going to start at one end here and do a really good back stitch like we did before, and just follow those all the way around. Okay, so I did that sewing all the way around to create that channel for the side walls, and at this point you could now stuff that carry on. And the bottom, if I didn't mention at the beginning of the video, I had actually put snaps across here, so you can add those at any point. I actually had added them very last time, but right now I think that I would rather put a zipper across the bottom of it, and to do that I don't need this area hemmed anymore. So this area was hemmed because you could then add any type of closure. You could add some Velcro there or the little snaps, but do whatever works best there for you. But just bear with me, I'm going to seam rip this and I'm going to put a zipper in this one instead. Okay, so I've gone ahead and finished putting the zipper here across the bottom. And I've gone ahead and stuffed one side of it. So I usually work from both sides. So I'll go in from one side first and go all the way about halfway to the top over there, and then work my way back until I get to the end. And then we're going to close up this opening here. And now I'm going to go ahead and fill from this side. Oh, sorry, don't mind my doggie on the floor. She was playing with some scraps of batting. That's why it's all over the floor. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and stuff that side as well. And like I mentioned before as well, I'm using the inside of Pillow Forms. So I'll just give you a little bit of a close-up of what it looks like. It's really silky when you feel it like this. So it's not that weird, more cottony stuff that you get at the store, like the cheaper stuff. That stuff kind of reminds me of cotton balls, like really stiff, if that makes sense at all. And I find that the fill, once it flattens, it doesn't do a great job of puffing back up. So I find that using the fill from a good high quality Pillow Form insert is the best way to fill them. Okay, so I finished stuffing the other side here. So now it looks like this. So it kind of, the walls are tilted out to the side, but we're going to close up these openings here, and we're going to make the insert for the pad that goes inside. And once we feed the cording through our outer channel, that's going to help pull the walls up. Okay, so I hand stitched the opening on both of the ends there, and I'm just working from a roll of elastic cording. So I already started feeding it through the opening. My safety pin is about down here right now, and I didn't realize until after I started that I was supposed to be filming this. So yeah, so basically to feed cording through, you just use a safety pin and you do a little push and pull motion. It's a little hard to explain, but it's pretty self-explanatory once you're actually doing it. And I'm going to go all the way around until I come back out the opposite side. Okay, so then I've feeded the elastic all the way around the top now. So as you can see, this is standing up much higher on its own. And then I've added one of these little, I don't actually even know what the name of this is, those little clip things. You can push on it and tighten it or loosen it. And then right now I have the ends like this, but I'll probably tie them up a little bit shorter. So yeah, this is what the finished baby nest looks like. So the walls are nice and high, as you can see there. And then underneath, you can see the zipper, or if you've put snaps across there. And I've just, here, let me open that. So I've inserted the little pad that I created in there. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if I showed making the pad. Oops. So I basically worked on this over a series of several days. Sewing in the morning or at night, just sort of sporadically, because that's how I fit in my little business. So I cut the inside pad 13 wide, 27 and a half long. I used 2 pieces of flannel, 2 pieces of batting. I quilted the batting to each side of the flannel, and then put them right sides together, sewed all the way around, left an opening, turned it through the opening, and then top stitched it. So you can really put anything you'd like in there. You can even just fold up a blanket and put it inside. You can make it out of whatever you'd like. You could even use like towels to make the pad, so that it would be nice and absorbent. But yeah, so this is it. And if you have any other questions, you can send me an email to quilters.workshop@gmail.com, and all of my social media links will be posted down below. So I post there much more regularly than I do on YouTube, although I am trying to make more of an effort. So yeah, I would love it if you went and followed me there. So thank you very much, and thanks so much for watching.